Welcome to the Human Experience Podcast, the only podcast designed to fuse your left and right brain hemispheres and feed it the most entertaining and mentally engaging topics on the planet. As we approach our ascent, please make sure your frontal, temporal and occipital lobes are in their full upright position. As you take your seat of consciousness, relax your senses and
simply go to allmylinks.com/thehumanxp. Tonight, we are going to be getting into the various aspects of the near-death experience phenomena. And what a curious thing. We're going to be exploring some of the implications that may be introduced by this being a real thing. We're going to be looking at some of the deeper mysteries about life here on Earth. It's going to be a great show. So whether you're hearing the replay version of this or you're here with us live, please just go grab a drink, sit back, and enjoy this conversation. The Human Experience is in session. My name is Xavier Katana. My guest for tonight is Lynn Russell. Lynn is a world expert on near-death experiences. She has worked directly with Dr. Jeffery Long, who is the founder of the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, where she studied thousands of NDE cases. She has also studied developments in consciousness research, quantum theory, and cosmology. Lynn has spent over 60 years studying world religious philosophy. She is also the author of The Wonder of You, What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself, a book in which she explores the answers to some of the deepest questions in life, such as why are we here? What is our purpose? And what happens to us when we die? Lynn, it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time and the space to do this show. Welcome to HXP.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Lynn, so, you've been doing this work for so long, and you must have collected so much data in your travels, but I'd really like to set the stage for this broadcast and what we're going to be talking about. How did you choose a career in studying consciousness and the near-death experience, and what drove you to ask these questions? What is our purpose and why are we here?
Well, it began as a child. My grandfather died, and that told me that I was going to die, that everybody dies, and I was part of that. So that frightened me. I didn't want to die. And I was very, very frightened about it for a long time. So I went to my mother, who was an atheist, and I asked her, what happens after we die? And she said, nothing, you just disappear. And that was not the answer my 8-year-old self wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And so that just really frightened me even more. And I went out of my way to start learning. As a child, actually, around 9, I began going to different churches and reading and studying just different religions throughout the world.
Huh. It's really curious. I've been really interested in the near-death experience for a long time. We've done a couple episodes about it here on HXP, and it's really curious. It's really curious that this phenomena could occur. I want to know. Let's define that for anyone that might not know about this process or this idea. What is a near-death experience?
Well, first of all, I want to remove the name near, excuse me, even though everybody uses near-death experience. The people who have had the experience can get quite upset about that because to them it wasn't near, it was real, and it did happen. And it sort of disqualifies their experience a bit. So death experience is when a person dies, actually dies. They die in car accidents or operations or heart attacks or whatever, and they leave their body. They have a spiritual experience, usually, and then they are sent back to their body because they're not finished yet. They have to finish whatever they've come here to do. So that's in a nutshell what a near-death experience is.
Okay. I mean, I love that. I mean, so I mean, certainly there are common features within these experiences. As you study case after case after case, there should be some things that are people have in common, some things that are different. Are there people who don't have anything happen to them when they die? Well, first, excuse me. When we say that a person is dead, does it mean that their heart has stopped? There's no brain function. Is that they're dead for a few minutes?
Yeah. Well, actually, the ones in the hospital that die in the hospital usually are resuscitated immediately. And because that happens, there's not enough time to know whether that person is actually dead. Like 3 or 4 minutes isn't enough time. But some of the people are dead for a very long time and sent down to the morgue and come back, and they're in rigor mortis. So it's a long, that's a long time for that to have happened. I think rigor mortis starts around 4 hours after death, around there, and it is full-fledged rigor mortis 12 to 13 hours later.
Oh my! I mean, that's like Jesus level. Like you're coming back. It's 4 hours. You're stepping into, rigor mortis. I've never heard of that before ever. So okay. So getting into the features of the experience itself. Are there people who have nothing happen to them when they die? Like there's just black.
Yes, there are. And I'm just beginning to understand that, to be honest with you. It turns out that they can look, the people who have died and look back down on our earth can see people, they can see all of us, and they can see their loved ones, or they can see a whole humanity. And they see, it's sort of like a cloud over the people that they just have very negative thinking, and they're very, their world is they're angry, or they're depressed, or they're not satisfied with the world that they live in. And those people, and that doesn't mean everybody who has a death experience loves life either, but for some reason, these people stop themselves. They put up a wall, and they won't allow themselves to leave or to have a full experience.
Okay. So
now that's brand new. So I'm just learning.
It's brand new? I mean, what do you mean?
Brand new to me.
Okay. So there are some people that do not have anything happen to them. They just simply die, and it's just black. And you say the connection that you make is that these people who seem to have this experience are people who don't tend to ask the bigger questions about life. They're kind of just like, whatever, I'm just here. Maybe they're too busy with their 9-to-5s, something.
Yeah, and depressed and angry and just a negative attitude towards everything in around them. Yeah. There is an NDE on NDERF.
NDERF,
NDERF, the Near Death Experience Research Foundation.
Sure, yeah.
And his name is Justin Yu.
Okay.
And he explains it beautifully. It just went click. When I read his story, I thought, oh, that's so perfect.
Okay, please tell us.
Well, it's just exactly what I've just told you, that there are people who have this darkness or this wall around themselves that when they die, they won't allow themselves to go anywhere or do anything. They just are not going to open up to moving from where they are. As a matter of fact, I never understood ghosts. I always thought ghosts were sort of like, yeah, right. I still kind of do, but 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 I can see that maybe some of these people that have this wall around them are what become ghosts, although I don't know that yet. So that's a speculation.
Okay. So moving forward a little bit. So, I mentioned this a little bit earlier that there are some common features to this experience. So let's go through that. Let's say,
Yeah.
a person has an experience and it causes them to lose brain function and it stops their heart. They die. They are clinically dead.
Yeah.
What is the first thing that happens in your research? What do people say the first thing that happens is?
Well, they're out of their body, but beyond that, there isn't one specific thing that happens to everyone. When they get to the other side, there are specific things that happen, but when they first leave their body, they leave in many, many different methods or many different ways. Sometimes people will be at the ceiling looking down at what's happening and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
Other people will have a guide or relatives even that have deceased loved ones that meet them and bring them. Sometimes they go up into near outer space and look out into outer space, and other ones go through tunnels. And the big thing that I want people to understand, sorry, is that, sorry, my
No
voice.
problem. Have some water, please.
Yeah. The big thing I want people to understand is no two experiences are alike. And the reason why that is because we create the experience we have. Now, not the knowledge, and not this. There are things, as you've asked, that that everybody has simply because they become spirit. But not everybody has the same tunnel, for example, or goes to the same garden, or sees the same buildings. Like there's completely different experiences depending on the individual.
Huh. I mean, it's really intriguing. So from my understanding, we are the architects of our own reality, and when we have this separation experience, it's very much dictated by what we think and perceive of the world, and that's what we get. That's what we encounter at first, at least, right?
Yes, that's right.
So then, everyone has heard about the tunnel of light, right? So is that sort of the next step into this?
Well, some people use a tunnel, and every tunnel is different. And some people go, as I said, to outer space. Sometimes the light is in the room with them. When they leave their body, there's the light, and they just enter into the light, or they enter into the spirit realm. There isn't one specific thing when it comes to the leaving of the body, but there are things that do happen that everybody has. For example, when they're out of their body, I would say 90% of the people, maybe 99%, will feel warmth, comfort, peace, and love. It's not a frightening experience at all. There are some who do have they get frightened, but that's not norm. The other thing that happens is that they are able to move with thought. The mere thought of being somewhere, and they can be there instantly. All communication is done through telepathy. And a big one, for me, that it's big, because, and it will be big when you understand, but anyway, the big one is the oneness, that they feel this connection to everything, everywhere.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a big one to me.
Okay, so I want to move a little bit further, but
Sure.
Have you ever read an account where a person does not move towards the light?
Yes, sure. I've read accounts where people go to the negatives. They have a negative experience.
Wait. So you're saying that if you don't move towards the light, you have in your words, a negative experience?
No. I'm saying that some people don't go at all. They stay at this. They stay at this physical level, And they wander around the world, and they'll go visit their relatives sometimes, or they just wander around the world and explore things sometimes. Some
So
people do that.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to bump you there.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
So could we say that the light that we see is some sort of portal that allows us to move into this higher realm, this sort of ascended realm?
Well, the higher realm, as you call it, is actually the other side. And it is very bright, very bright. There's lights everywhere. Like everything is light and bright. It looks like the middle of the day all the time. However, there is also the light that people see, and that's a whole different experience.
Okay. So let's just say, that someone has died and they're outside of their body, and they see the light appear, tunnel of light. They move towards it.
Right.
Where are we? What's the common thing that happens?
Okay. The most common thing that happens is they go through a tunnel. And as they're traveling through the tunnel, some people will see a fork in the tunnel and decide to go left or right, or which up or down or whatever. But and that's what I was meaning when I said a negative experience, that people will be going through the tunnel and they will see a fork and they will find themselves going into a very negative experience. But the thing that I want to stress with that is that the people who go into the negative experience, first of all, as soon as they ask to be taken out, they are right away, immediately. The second point is that when they get taken out and they ask, what was that all about? They will be told that that's something they did to themselves, that they created that themselves.
What I'm trying to ascertain, Lynn, is, as the physical dimension has a set of laws like gravity and those things, I want to, try to ascertain if this other realm, this other side, also has some sort of structure or a rule set, and it seems it's okay. So it seems like willpower is one of the main sort of, one of the main factors that what you just choose is what occurs, right?
Yeah. And some people will go to a garden. Some people go to cities. Some people go to both, like there's gardens and cities mixed together. Some people go to the mountains. Some people go to the wherever they want to go, they can go.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to tell about a couple of ladies. And this illustrates how individual and how we have a role to play. When a person dies, all disabilities are gone. Instantly, they're gone. There's nothing there. And so the blind see, the deaf can hear, the disabled can walk and run and dance and whatever else. So with that in mind, there was a lady who had a son who was disabled, and he was severely disabled. And so he died before she had her death experience. When she died, she went onto the other side, and she saw him, of course. But she saw him as still being disabled. In her mind, he was still disabled, and she carried him around with her. So you need to, for her to be able to see him that way, it's because that's what she created in her mind, because that's how she knew him. There was another lady who, she saw three beautiful souls, and so she said, "Oh, I want to be beautiful like that." And so they immediately took her to a place where this man did hocus pocus over her, and she felt like, okay, now she was beautiful. And then she leaves there, and she feels like she has somewhere she has to go. And she doesn't know where, but she just knows she has to go. And there's a highway there. And so she needs to get onto the highway, and she needs a car. And her guide comes along and says, no, you don't need a car. You can travel by thought. But she doesn't believe him. So they eventually get her a car, but it keeps breaking down on her. And so finally she gives the thought business a try, and it works. So the point is, you see, she created all of that. She created that she wasn't beautiful. She created the man that was going to make her beautiful. She created the highway, and she created the car.
So I mean, one of your favorite accounts of an NDE is that proves it in a way is the story of the big shoe. What is the story of the big shoe, and why is it one of your favorites?
Oh, that's the blue shoe, actually, and it's online. Anybody can find it. Just look up the blue shoe. What the story with that is, and I like it because it illustrates without question what's going on, and so that's why I like it. This lady had an operation, and during the operation, she left her body, and she died. So while they're working on her to try and bring her back, she goes traveling and around all over the place. And then she comes back into her body, and they finish the operation. And she wakes up in the recovery room, and there's a social worker there that is greeting her. And so she tells the social worker that there's this blue shoe that's sitting on a ledge outside the hospital by a window. Just under a window, but it's on the ledge. Mm-hmm. And so she tells people about this. She tells nurses, she tells doctors. Nobody believes her. So finally, this social worker says, okay, I'll go and see what I can find. So the social worker, now you need to know that the operating room was on the second floor. Okay. She goes, so the social worker looks for the shoe and finds it on the 7th floor, just outside of a window. And it's white shoe with blue trim, and the laces are blue as well. So, and this lady, that Maria, the lady that described it, had described it exactly as it would be if she was out in the middle of the air looking at it. So that to me was a really good illustration that something going on.
Right, because she had information that there's no way that she could have possibly had, which was, she was floating outside, somehow saw the shoe there, and then confirmed it, when she was back in her body, right?
Yes.
So okay, so let's move forward a little bit more, and so let's say we get to the other side, and it's common to see family members, guides. What is the process that some of these people who've had these experiences, what do they see? What are they being told?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the first thing that people see is physical. They see a physical world and a physical body. They see their loved ones standing there physically. They hug them. They eat, they drink, they sleep, they do all kinds of things on the other side that is physical, but they don't have a physical body. They've left their physical body behind in their spirit. But because that's how they remember, that's how they relate to, is the physical. So that's why they are seeing physical. So that's the first thing. So most people meet their loved ones there, the ones who have passed ahead of them. Not everybody. Some people know that their loved ones are around, but they go off and do other things. And they can do all kinds of different things. But one of the things that almost everyone does is they have a life review. And that's a very significant thing, because in the life review, they see all their whole life from the beginning to the end, at least until that experience happened, until they've died. And in the life review, they see how they treated others. There's nothing else that they look at. They don't look at the car they drove or the job they had. any of those things. It's just strictly how they were with each other.
Wow. Okay, that's a bit surprising. It's not, what thoughts you had, how you felt about yourself, some of the experiences that you went through, but how you treated your fellow human being.
Yes, that's a major one. They may get information about, if they're confused or puzzled about that they did something, they don't understand why they did it, they might get an explanation. But primarily, it's to look at how they were with each other. And it goes even farther than that, because they not only they literally become the other person and feel what that person felt when they had their exchange, but they also feel how that person took that information beyond into their lives. So, for example, if something negative happened, and they would feel the pain that the person felt from that negative experience, but they would also feel how that person treated the store clerk because they were cranky now, or they cut off somebody in traffic, things like that. They feel those things as well.
Wow, that's absolutely fascinating. So it's not just how we treat the other person, but also we get the perspective that they also had. So it's also sort of multi-dimensional in that you're experiencing both sides of it and how it impacted them and their life as it went on, right?
Yes, and also decisions that we make and how they impact others. So like leaders or bosses, that they make a decision that impacts their staff or the people that they are, the leader of. If they make a decision that is harmful to them, then they will experience that. And so you can imagine what happened for Hitler, because people are still feeling the Holocaust.
But I mean, I thought I read somewhere in your book that there is no sense of judgment, when you pass into this realm.
No, that's right. There isn't. No, there is a judgment, but we are the only ones who judge ourselves. The guides and the any other beings or whatever that's around, there's no judgment.
So there's no one saying, "Look at this, you did this wrong.
Right.
You're going to
That's
get punished." It's more just your own self that is looking at it for yourself and feeling however you feel about it.
Yes, exactly.
Huh. So, is for people who have come back and had the life review, have you noticed any drastic change in their personalities?
Yes, big time. They come back completely different people. It doesn't matter what they were like before they left, they come back much, much different. Now, that doesn't mean they're perfect. They still have their bad days, but they are much more caring, much more forgiving. They want to help others, and they will put themselves out for the world to do whatever they can to make things better. And I think they're changing the world. I think that this whole uprising of knowledge that we're seeing and the spirituality, I think that's coming from people who have had death experiences, and they're changing things.
So Lynn, I mean, do you believe in reincarnation?
Absolutely.
Do you think that we somehow are the architects of our experience here as we grow and evolve as human beings?
Absolutely. Now, let me go back to my oneness thing.
Please.
Everything boils down to that, because we are one. We not just with each other. There's only one soul, and the one soul is what some people call God, and some people call Yahweh, and whatever else. There's all kinds of different names, but I just call it the source. And the source is the only soul and the only being that there is. And all this that we are experiencing is coming from that one source.
When people ask me if I believe in God, I say, yes, undeniably for me, there is a God, but it doesn't represent someone in the sky that
Yes,
is,
yeah, yeah,
looking at you and
yeah,
judging you. It's more that, God is everything, literally everything. God is
yes,
this moment. God is
yes,
me and you speaking right now. God is
yeah,
the breath leaving my mouth. God
yeah,
is the space in between us. God is everything. God is everyone listening to this show.
yeah.
So, I guess that would make sense that God is just source and we are kind of, connected into this source.
No.
But going back to, the reincarnation thing and being the architects of our lives.
Uh-huh.
Would you say that before we decide to incarnate in our current life that we set up lessons for ourselves, set
Oh,
up different
absolutely. Yeah,
goalposts that we're supposed to kind of, why would we do that? I mean, why not just come here and have a good time?
well, because we are the source. We are source. And we are saying, okay, we did that before. Let's see if what else there is. We're just giving ourselves different experiences to try and learn and grow and have a different kind of experience in being human. Or it could be other things too, other lives in other places, or even a bug. I think we could probably be that too. Um, but we before we come here as a soul, we decide, okay, I'm going to be a soul and I'm going to come down to a life. And so we decide what goal or task or challenge we want to accomplish in this lifetime. Then we choose everything in this life that will help us to gain that goal. So that would be the family that we live in, with our friends, or all the people around us. It may be even just somebody who's passing by, or maybe a favorite teacher. And then we also choose incidences or events that will happen so that it will guide us in the direction of our goal. That's the main point, is to guide us in that direction so we can accomplish our goal while we're here. And then we also choose ourselves, what race we are, what nationality, what country, all that, right down to what we look like, how intelligent we are, and everything that we can possibly think of, we choose before we come here. Then we come here with amnesia, because if we didn't have amnesia, we would not be able to function in
Well,
the physical realm.
we wouldn't learn anything either, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
if
That's right. Yeah.
Huh. I'm absolutely fascinated by this whole process, and I find it intriguing because if we are the architect of our lives, and we come here to have new experiences, and if we are God, sort of just manifest and experiencing God, to that we are God ourselves, then it seems to make it resonates for me. Would you say that, as far as the journey that we experience through our lives, would you say that it's, the way I like to put it is that it's kind of like a river, and a river, it ends up back at the ocean eventually, no matter what. So,
Right.
you can make a choice and it might move off into a tributary or something, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's still, at the ocean.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Huh.
Um, yeah. That's true. I love that. That's a very good analogy.
Okay. So
So
go ahead,
go
please.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, no, no. I'm
I want to know
listening to.
what. Yeah. I lost track of my thoughts. So go ahead.
Okay, so it seems like there's a profound feeling of oneness that we have. It's very
Yes.
comforting. You're
Yes.
there. Maybe you see relatives that have passed. A friend of mine who's a doctor. I was talking to him about this, and I don't really know how it came up. I just asked him, have your patients, talk to you about death and passing, and what
Yeah.
happens, and something that he remarked on was that when his patients are close to that death, they know they're going to die,
Yes.
they start to hallucinate and see relatives that have passed already. Is this something that you've heard about in your...
Well, you see, I wouldn't call it a hallucination. I do want to go back to the oneness thing again.
Okay.
Because I remembered what I was going to say.
Okay, sure.
But I'll finish this. I don't believe it's a hallucination. I think it is people that come to greet us. Our loved ones are, yes, I do know that. That is true.
Okay, so there is an aspect of knowing these people, these beings know that we're going to cross over, and they kind of show up and make sure that we're going to be okay with the process.
And they send all kinds of love, and they send a message somehow through. I mean, and it's not talking. So, and there's no. I don't know if it's telepathy or not, because that's how they communicate. But the people who are closer to death become very calm and very comforted by knowing that their loved ones are there.
Of course. I mean, so going back to your oneness, I'll hand it back to you. You said that you wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to say about the oneness is I think people have a hard time understanding it, and I don't blame them, because it's we've been taught one way to think for so long. Anyway, what I want to say is it's all consciousness. Everything is consciousness. It isn't a being. It's a positive energy force is what it is, but it has consciousness, and that's what is manifesting.
Okay, so I want to go back to the question that I had about reincarnations. I mean, so is this a thing, and why would we need to reincarnate over and over? Is it, to learn these different lessons? Is there an end to the reincarnation cycle? What happens after you are done with the game?
Yeah. I think his name is Rick. That was one of the men people that I studied, and he was a little boy, and when he was hit by a car while he was riding on his bike, and so anyway, while he's on the other side, he's talking to them, and he's learning all these beautiful. It's a wonderful story. I mean, this young fellow was right. Like he asked him very excellent questions. And anyway, he was getting all these questions answered anyway. Finally, they tell him that it's time he has to go back. And he said, well, when I come back here, I'm never going back there again. And they laughed, because they said, the guides laughed at him and said, oh, yes, you will, because you love the adventure. So it's sort of like going to a movie or a play, or it might be even reading a good book, although it would have to be really engrossing. That's what we are. We're the director, we're the writers, we're the actors, we're the producers, we're everything. We are the ones that create this movie.
So it's almost like we plug into a computer, and we put on this sort of VR headset thing that immerses us so deeply in the game of life that we forget, we completely forget that we chose this, and also for the purpose of truly learning that lesson, to the fullest.
Yes, and people can't remember their past lives either. I mean, some do, but they only remember it generally. There is the odd exception, but generally they only remember it from about 2 to 7 in that 5-year period, and then by the time they're 7, it's fading, and they just can't remember it anymore, because they couldn't function in this world, in this existence, if they kept remembering their past life, because they're bonded with that. And that's what happens to children who remember their past lives, and they've reincarnated and they remember. They want to go back to that life, because that's where they're bonded. They have a terrible time adjusting to this new world, this new family, and this new existence. They don't like it. They want their old one. So important, to not remember is very, very important.
Okay, it's a perfect layup into my next question, which is, you write that in these NDE experiences that these people are given knowledge, they're given information that they did not previously have before their accident, whatever happened to them. So, what types of information do they bring back? What kinds of knowledge are they shown?
Yeah.
I'm very curious to know, what they're given.
Well, actually, it can be everything. Like they can learn every single thing there is to learn about what it's all about. Why are we here? What is this whole thing? And they become the light, and they blend right into the light, and they can, because the light is this energy source that I'm talking about that has a consciousness, and so they go in and they become it, and they can go right back to the beginning of time, and understand how this all evolved. So that's one of the, but they don't bring that back with them. They remember it when they're over there, but they don't bring it back. They can't remember it. They might remember flashes like the multitude of souls that they become. That one person said that they remembered being deep, deep loneliness and sadness, and so then the multitude of souls was created, and that gave someone else or something else to connect to.
I've had some ayahuasca DMT experiences where, I go into this other realm and I'm given information, and when I am sort of back into my body, there's no way that I could hold or retain the depth or color of everything that's being given to me. And so maybe it's an aspect of just, it's not something that the human body has the capacity to do. We just don't understand the size of it, the depth of it, the grasp of it doesn't occur to us.
Well, I think some do, but it takes a lifetime to know it and to understand it and be with it. And I don't mean my lifetime. I'm thinking people like the holy men of India, or women too, the sadhus. The sadhus, yeah. Yeah, that how it said. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I only read it, so I was going by. Okay, so they can live it and be it and can do amazing things, and they carry it with them. But that's rare because we have lives and we have to come back here and be human beings and do go to work and whatever else we have to do.
Right. Again, it seems like if life is such a struggle, sometimes it feels that way, and we're suffering sometimes through it. Some people more than others. Especially in times like right now, what's going on in the world today. It's really terrifying. It can be heartbreaking, especially if you have a family member that's going through this. So why would you want to come back? You're in this NDE state. Everything is blissful. You've got all this light around you, all these people hanging out with you. They're all cool with you. They're all your family members. You haven't seen them in a long time. You're getting all this knowledge, information. You understand things that you didn't understand before. If you have a disability, there's no disability anymore. Why would you ever want to come back to this place?
I think most people who have death experiences don't want to come back, and they're very upset when they're told that they have to come back. Some realize that and understand, okay, that's the way it is, and I'll have I can come back here when my time is due. But a lot of them fight because they don't want to come back. It's so beautiful there. But I think what you're asking is, why would we have a new life? Why would we reincarnate? Is that what you're asking?
I think I get it. I think I understand that once we get, I think it's almost like you're addicted to it and you forget, kind
Yeah.
of the process of it. You forget,
Yeah.
and maybe the
Yeah.
time scale of things changed. Time here is linear, and there maybe it's not. Maybe
Yeah.
it works a little bit differently.
Yeah. There's no time there at all.
Okay, there you go.
No space or time.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, so if all those things are true, then, all of our lives are happening all at once.
That's
And
right.
that space exists
Yeah.
outside of that completely, which is so hard to fathom for us because
Yeah.
for us it's linear. We
Yeah.
experience 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, but for over there, it's like it all happens at once, like 1
Yeah.
through
That's
5,
right. Yeah.
right? So I'm just wondering what the higher picture may be. If the universe is a big place, Lynn, I mean, it's huge, right? So what if the Earth life system is just one of the systems in many different systems? And yeah, there's, we play the game, we forget, we have amnesia about it. And
Yeah.
so, I'm just wondering what else is out there. I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, I think there are all kinds of different. I think there's many dimensions. I think there are many different kinds of existences that we're not aware of because we're so limited here. But we need this experience in order to give back to the source this experience. And how that works is that we okay, as I said, there's almost like there's a direct line between us and the source, and that's a direct connection. And everything we do, see, and feel, and so on, is being felt by the source because of this connection. Okay, and so now I've lost my train of thought again. Sorry. But I think that what we get stuck thinking about being here. That we're so wrapped up in being human that we can't take ourselves out of this and look and see how something else would be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So,
I was
I mean,
just going to say that quantum physics, the string theory, talks about multi-universes, which is fine. I think that there are multi-universes, but one of the concepts is that within multiple universes, if there's infinite number, then we have duplicates of ourselves somewhere doing the same thing we're doing. And that's pretty physical. That's pretty down to earth and, very, very physics oriented in their thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I understand, what you're getting at and what you're saying. And there's something about this experience that somehow links us back to the source, and it's necessary to do that. So, which is why we do it in the first place.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to absorb within all of that. So, I want to know what happens to these people after they get back, and how do their lives change? And is there some sort of directive that they're given? Be this way. I mean, because it sounds like the near-death experience is just an intervention. It's kind of like stopping you from what's going on in your life and reminding you where you come from, and then sending you back and saying, "Oh, okay, hey, you got just finish the job, and then you can come back when you want to."
Yeah, no, not necessarily, because there are people that get to the other side and they're given a choice. They can come back or they can stay. So not necessarily that they're it's an interlude or a warning of some sort to get back and do it right. No, not necessarily. But the thing that I guess what I'm trying to emphasize is that quantum physics shows us that we are, in a way we don't understand, we are connected to the universe. We also know that through the death experiences that people have had, that we are connected there as well. And it's all consciousness. It's just a big circle of consciousness.
I mean, you talk about consciousness in the book, and and Dean Radin, we've had him on the show several times.
Right.
The Global Consciousness Project,
Oh,
Dr.
yes,
Roger
yes.
Nelson, we've
Yeah.
had him on the show. I mean, so it's all in the line of what we're doing here. But why do you think that it's all about consciousness? Why do you think it's the connection to source? And is there any evidence for this?
Evidence, no. Only that somehow our consciousness is connected to the universe, but not that we're connected to the source. There's no proof of that other than people who have had death experiences and come back and tell us things that they couldn't possibly know. They're like, well, I'm talking about Maria, but there are many, many people who come back with information that they could not possibly know. Another thing that happens is that some people are dead for 14, 15 hours before they come back. So, and there was the longest recorded one was 29 hours. So experiences like that it shows me that there's something way more than just what we're able to touch and feel. I mean, the goal is to experience differentness. And we are experiencing differentness for the source. And we are the source experiencing differentness, by the way. And so, but in the experiencing of our differentness, we, at the spirit level, they can't get out of bed. They can't talk. They can't do any of the things that we do. Nothing. None of the things that we do can happen there unless they invent it or create it. Which is what we are doing now.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Can you just say that in a different way, please?
So, as I've said, that there's this big, huge oneness, and that is the source. That's this energy, this positive energy field or force that has consciousness. And the consciousness is constantly creating, constantly. It never, never, never ends. And so we are a part of that, and we are only one way of giving back to the source. Because if the source didn't have us, then the source would be, if they didn't have creation, I should say, then the source would be, it would be lost. There would be nothingness.
Lynn, what is a fear-death experience? Something that you write about.
Yeah, I love those.
You love them.
Yeah, I do. I think they're cool. Well, they're like miracles that people have, that they are in the middle of a process of going through an accident. They're heading for a tree, or they're something horrible is going to happen, and they know they're in a car and they're going to get smashed up. And then all of a sudden, they're on the other side of the tree, and their car's fine, and nothing happened. They're still alive. That, to me, is just so cool. But in the meantime, they have a quick little near-death experience. It doesn't last more than a second or two, but it's enough that they're there, and they may have a life review, and then they come back. But when they come back, they're still in their car, and the car is still. There's one story about a couple of guys, and they were heading for a bus, and they knew they were going to be killed. That was all there was to it. And the next thing they know, they are at a stoplight down the street, waiting for the red light to change. I mean, like, it's illogical. It's very, very illogical. But I love them.
I mean, it's not that illogical. I mean, I think if our reality is like a VCR tape, right? If anyone remembers those, and you can kind of, like a DJ would, you can kind of skip a scene, or move it a little bit quicker and just place the characters, in a different spot, you might be able to edit things around in a way, we can't understand because the science and the physics hasn't caught up with this yet.
Yeah, that's quite true. And I don't know that, I think physics has got a lot to learn, but I also think we do too. I don't think we have all the answers.
Of course. Lynn, we're almost out of time, but is there anything that I should have asked you tonight that I didn't that you want to talk about?
Well, just where they can get my book, but before
we'll do that. But
but before that, I just want people to know that they are far more magnificent than they ever imagined. That's my message. My message is, wow, we are absolutely fantastic, and we can accomplish so much, and we change ourselves all the time. And that's my big message to my people. And that's what the book is about: is to teach people how beautiful they are.
Yeah, I highly recommend the book. Where can people go and find your website, Lynn? Where can people go and pick up the book, please? If you just want to say the title one more time.
Okay. It's The Wonder of You, What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself. And my name is Lynn K. Russell. I use the K because there are a bazillion Lynn Russells out there, and you'll never catch me. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on Instagram, but I don't go there very often, but I'm there. I don't know. I don't go too often. Anyway, and I also don't have a website today, but I will next week. And next week, and it will be Lynn K. Russell.
All right, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, you hear it. You heard it here first. What an amazing aspect to the process of being alive. The book is called The Wonder of You. I highly recommend the read. What the near-death experience tells you about yourself. If you've ever wondered about some of the larger questions that we ask on this show, it's definitely a read that I would recommend, and pick it up. That's going to do it tonight for us here at HXP. We will certainly be back next week. If you are not subscribed to us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on YouTube, please get over there, click subscribe, click like. Thank you guys so much. Good night.